Here we go. All right, it's feeling nice. I like how you push some of these poses. That right there is feeling better. That feels better. That feels good. It's nice. The one thing that's kind of awkward to me is why does he look over there and then blink and do this? What is this pose about? It doesn't look like he's looking at the bazooka. He looks like he's looking right here. There's very little pose change from here to here. The idea in this pose right now is I'm concerned about a threat, and the pose doesn't change, just the eyes change. So just a few frames ago he was concerned about a threat, and now he's looking down here. Is there a threat from here? Because the only idea I know is that he's concerned about a threat, and the idea hasn't changed substantially enough for me to get out of that, right? So we've got to change that idea substantially. If I were looking like in the distance at a looming threat, which is he's making sure the coast is clear, there's a threat, and I wanted to think about the bazooka, I probably wouldn't do this type of thing. I would probably turn my head and look at the bazooka. But the thing about it is, I'm not so sure he would turn and look at the bazooka anyway, because he knows it's there. If you're trying to get the idea he's not a combat trained guy and that he has to decide should I fight back, then this to me looks more concerned. Concerned looking down at the ground. Why am I concerned looking down here? What's down here that I'm concerned about? Well, I don't know. Instead, have him be more clear in that pose where there's a deliberate move. He's like looking over there, and then he looks down and he's like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do, right? So there's a beat of him looking at it, and then, all right, let's do this. I mean, you could even have him look at that, obviously his head's going to be more facing it, and pull his arm back. But you can have his face, as he turns, he's like this, while he's looking over there, and he can go, he can pull his arms in. This is like, I'm ready for anything, and this is like, hey, there's a bazooka there. And then there's a, like a determined, like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then he goes. And we see in his face that he's looking at the bazooka, and then the facial change tells us, I sized up the bazooka, and now I'm going to do something about the situation that I'm in. And it would just be adding, information in between all the animation that you have already. This pose here, get the hand out like this. So instead of him pulling his hand like this, he's going, it's like whipping around. And then this pose here, you want to have the elbow come a little bit out like that. So as it comes forward, the elbow is going to break. The elbow is going to follow, lag behind. And you can have it just a little bit more here maybe. That way it'll feel more like, he's whipping his arm around instead of like kind of pulling it, at a right angle. There's some weird noise happening as you're getting up. Look at your head. Where your head is here, you drop down, then you start going up, and you're actually going like almost screen right with your head, still up, and then you drop down here and go screen left quite a bit, and then you come back up again and go screen left. So you got like this head's like right here. It's almost like it's coming up like this, and then it does a dip real quick, and then it starts doing that. So try to get that move to be fluid like this, just one big fluid arc all the way through. So check your arcs, because I feel like there's some, overall I think you've done a good job, but there's some areas where you need to really finesse those arcs. I'm not so sure that this backwards paddle hand is working. It feels like a whip, that he's going to whip it on there. It might be too much. All right, we talked about this before, and I think you did a much better job, where now the force that you're pulling back in a different pose, his butt is not over the pulling, his butt's actually going this way, but the force of that, you feel happening all throughout the body. So I think this pose works really well. I know we talked about like how when the butt is like coming up and pulling this way, we feel that force, but I think this pose works better than what you had before. I like the accepting of the weight there where he pulls it up. I like the texture where he goes forward really quickly there. Boom. And boom. That feels really heavy. Pow. I feel it's a little bit noisy in this switching. And it's like his head is kind of wobbly. Do you see what I mean? It's going back, then it like comes down and then goes back a little bit and then it starts to go forward. There's like a weird trajectory in the head there. So everything's fine. It's going back, and then as you start to get back here, let's use this. So we're moving backwards, right? We stop, we start to come forward and down, and straight down, and then back again right here, and then back down and forward. Do you see how like there's some jittery noise? As like you're coming down and you're like kind of doing this kind of business. So clean that area up and it'll look better. It's happening in your spine too, by the way. It's not just in your head, it's in your spine. It might also be in your hips, it's hard to tell. But overall, it's feeling good if you can clean that area up, make that smoother. And then of course, you know, polish up the hand poses. I feel like they're sliding all over the little bazooka rocket. I'm not going to tell you to change this, but it would have been so satisfying to see him just like shoot really, really far back. Boom, when he shot it, just like pow, just shot him maybe even out of frame. Because compared to like how hard it was for him to pick it up, like all this movement for him to pick it up, and then like the shot should have been even bigger. It should have felt like the biggest thing. Out of everything that he did, it should have felt like the most powerful, heaviest part, you know. Like look how much his feet move throughout the entire thing, and then when he shoots, it's like wah, wah. It'd have been hilarious if he got ready to shoot and it like shot that way and like flew him forward. That would have been like super funny. But it would just like this idea, it would be nicer just to see him like shoot back a lot more, that's all. Anyhow, it's looking pretty good. Those are the big things that I would point out.